Last used February of 2024, and the chain is sharp. Put some oil on this puppy, make sure my chain tension is good, and we're good to go, baby. How's it going, guys? I am out today to cut up this branch that snapped last fall, and I kind of just left hanging for a while, because as soon as I saw this branch was down, I wanted to film a video about the most basic, fundamental starter lesson in using a chainsaws you're ever going to get. Whether somebody's been using a chainsaw for years or they're just starting to use a chainsaw, this is something we all had to learn somewhere along the way. Whether you're cutting down a tree or you have a branch like this, what's going to happen is you're going to have the branch leaning against the ground. Okay, just like this. So if you see a branch like this that's leaning on the ground, most people just assume you just grab the saw, you come in, and you start cutting. And that works good up until a point. But what you have to understand is the branch, both this side of the branch and this side are both pushing down. The top of my cut is trying to squeeze, but the bottom of my cut is trying to open. So what's going to happen is if I keep cutting, at some point, the saw is going to bind, okay? So right there, I am no longer in control of the saw. It's stuck. So what you really want to do, though, is, let's see if we can get this out. You just lift up and you can pull that out, but that cut is closing. So what you want to do is, if we were using the chainsaw, we would come through and just cut a little bit on the top of the branch, maybe like a third of the way, and then you come back from the bottom and you finish your cut. And I want you to notice how the top of the cut here is closing, and then the bottom of the cut is actually opening up as I'm doing this. Now, the one thing you have to be careful is at some point this branch is going to snap and it's just going to drop right down, okay? So you kind of have to make sure your body's in a good position. You know, chainsaws are dangerous. You got to read the manual on that. There's a lot of things. Every situation is different. But what's going to basically happen is eventually it's just going to come down and the branch is going to snap. But there's never any tension on this branch. So as I'm going, I can just keep cutting. And right now, I don't even think that there's any wood holding that together. I think it's just sheer gravity. So if I just come in here, okay, that's all there was holding that together. So now that we got the branch cut and there's no weight on the end, there's more weight over here than there is here. So the cut is trying to open. So we can just start right at the top and work our way down. Let me take my hand off the branch just so you see. Making sure our feet aren't under there and that everything can just drop. You see that? I cleared out some of the brush in there, and what I'd like to do now is you see this branch that starts up at the tree here and comes down, and it's actually leaning on top of the forsythia there. So this branch is also under tension as well. And it doesn't take much. Like, you'll know pretty quickly when you get better at this, if you watch the cut, the second you feel that cut start to close, or you just see it start to close, you'll stop. But it really becomes pretty basic to figure out once you do it a few times. But what you're going to notice is we're going to try cutting this one right here, but I'm going to use the saw this time. And what I'll do is I'll just cut a little bit on top, and then I'll just move around and cut from the bottom, and you'll notice the cut will just open up, and it's never going to get stuck. So now we're going to try the same thing, but we're going to use the chainsaw here. And let me just see if I can show you how this looks if we just go from the top completely. This one's not so bad, but you can see it's already starting to close. So let me show you how it looks if we just cut a little bit from the top, like a third away from the top, and then come from the bottom. I don't know if you see how the branch is kind of starting to settle as I'm cutting, and then you come from the bottom. So now I'm going to show you a more practical application. And if we take a look at these branches here, you can see there's one branch that is actually caught on another branch there. So all the weight is in the middle. So this branch wants to go down. And initially I was thinking I would cut it there, but there's really nowhere for me to get out of there from that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this branch first. I am positioned where if the branch falls, it's not coming towards me and I can just back off quickly. But let's go ahead and show you what this is going to look like. So there's a lot of weight on this branch right here. So if I were to cut this just from the top, it's probably going to bind, but we're going to stop a third the way through. Okay, and then we're just going to come back and cut from the bottom. Then we can just clean this up a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing here, and I'm not sure if this is going to go or not. You see how that's already starting to lean down as I cut? So that's why, even though sometimes I go more, I stop at a third and then cut from the bottom. So now I've got this long branch hanging here, and what I'm going to do is actually the reverse. So I'm going to cut just a touch on the bottom first and then finish the cut on the top. So when this drops, it doesn't get caught by a piece of bark or something. So let's show you what that looks like. With smaller stuff, it doesn't really matter, but with the bigger stuff, it's heavy and you want to make sure you know where it's fallen. And then we'll do the same up here again. All we have left is this one branch, large limb, coming down, and the end is supported by another branch, which I may have to take off as well. So my goal is basically to cut it right here. But if I start cutting this from the top, it's going to bind. There's no way around that. The saw is not going to make it through there without binding. So what I'll do is I'll come through from the top, cut a third of the way, and then finish the cut from the bottom. And, you know, I don't know exactly how this branch is going to fall, but I know it's going to be a lot of weight falling fast. So I am going to do my best to be nowhere near when it comes down. I'm going to do this a little bit slower than real time so you can see what's happening. But I just want you to notice, first I'm going to cut the top about a third the way through, then I'm going to come from the bottom, and as I'm cutting from the bottom, you're going to notice the whole branch start to come down. And eventually it's just going to let go if I line my cuts up and fall. See how it's starting to fall already? Watch, I'm going to cut a little bit more, and you're going to notice it'll start to fall. So then we just come from the bottom, line our cuts up. All right, she came down with quite a boom at the end there, but there's the smaller piece, and then when it fell down, the bigger piece did release from the tree. All right, guys, well, I think we're gonna call the video here. I really just wanted to make this video more about how to use the weight of the tree when you're cutting it to work with you rather than to use that weight against you. If you use the technique I showed you, you're going to have much more success, and we're just going to say fun. Some people find chainsaws fun when you're cutting the trees. And just as a kind of note here, this branch I cut down, there is absolutely nothing wrong with calling an arborist and asking them to cut something like this down. I've done stuff like this before, but when I started out, you learn a little bit more as you go. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with calling an arborist, because things can go wrong really fast. And whatever an arborist costs is a lot less than the damage to your home or yourself. So I just want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with calling an arborist. What I do whenever my trees need work is I have an arborist and I ask him to just come down, do the work he needs to do, and just leave everything in log lengths on the ground, because I enjoy cutting it up. I cut it for my stove, so I can cut it just the way I want it. Sometimes if you Google idiots with chainsaws and or chainsaw mistakes and see some of the things people are doing, all that stuff should never even get close. That's so not right and so dangerous as those videos are. I can't even watch those videos. But anyways, folks, thanks a lot for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.